Starting fresh. Be right back. All alone in the room. What is going to happen? What should I do? What am I going to do?
Megatron must be stopped, no matter the cost.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Autopod Decepticast. This is your weekly podcast that delivers a minute-by-minute breakdown of the 1986 Transformers movie. This is episode 65, meaning that we're going to cover the 1 hour, 4 minute, and 1 second mark to the 1 hour and 5 minute mark. This is your host, ladies and gentlemen, and I have some news for you. By the tone of our text exchanges, we knew it was bound to happen. There's been a rift in our friendship, and Ryan and Caleb have left the podcast. But fear not, listeners. I wouldn't just continue a show without adequate replacement hosts. I know they're your favorite part of the show, so I spent some time in the old science garage, and I'm happy to present to you my new co-hosts, Evil Robot Ryan and Evil Robot Caleb. Just like the originals in every way, only evil.
Thank you. My name is Evil Ryan Robot. I was made well. Who are you?
Well, I would think that I would actually be the non-evil Caleb, right? So yeah, in that case, I'd be like, hey, I sure had a really nice text conversation with you.
I like the mirror universe version is you being polite.
Yes.
You're supposed to, first of all, you're the same in every way, only evil. That doesn't mean you talk that way, Ryan.
You said I was a robot.
Well, you're a robot, but you're really advanced.
The Bill and Ted robots don't talk that normal way, do they?
Yeah, they talk the normal way.
They moved really weird.
They moved a little weird at first, but they got over it.
Maybe I'm misremembering
They could
that.
pop their heads off and slam dunk
So
them.
you didn't like my improv?
No,
it
just sounded like you had a stroke. You sounded like Mrs. Delano.
Oh, God.
That's a reference
Someone
nobody will get.
Nobody gets.
It sounded like Mr. Herman calling.
Paging Mr. Herman.
I think, well, think about this. We would sound like we sound like a Westworld host.
I have not seen that show.
Oh, that's a good show. Anyway,
I'm with you, Caleb.
If I'm the robot,
I'm up to speed on my episodes.
Yes, and I appreciate that, and I'm going to send you a very nice text because of our amazing friendship.
I don't want to talk about sexual things.
Yeah, that's definitely a replacement.
So I guess what inspired this was the news that I'm just over the moon that they're going to make a Bill and Ted 3.
Oh, yeah.
Have you heard
I
that,
saw
Caleb?
that. I saw that on Twitter, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you really know that?
Yeah, I knew it, but I don't.
You don't want to talk about it?
No, I'm fine. I think I've seen those movies a little bit.
So I can't wait. But the Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure surprisingly has a 78% on Rotten Tomatoes. I didn't know it would be that high.
That is surprising. I feel like also, though, it might be getting a bump from being older than Rotten Tomatoes. Sometimes older movies I feel like get kind of like if that were released today, well, it would be different today, but comedies don't generally do that well on Rotten Tomatoes because critics don't like comedy.
Well, I will note that Bogus Journey has a less surprising 54%.
It was not a good sophomore effort.
Do you know what this
I
was
thought it
gonna
was
be?
great.
It's
I mean,
fine.
it wasn't as good as, for sure.
I think that rating is about right. It's enjoyable, but I don't think it's good.
Do you know what this one's going to be called?
I think there is. It's called Bill and Ted Face the Music.
Interesting.
And
This is what I find this interesting, like the idea of middle-aged Bill and Ted, which is what I always thought they should have made a middle-aged Ferris Bueller. Like that shithead, what he turns out to be, because he's not a good person.
Not really, no. I mean, he seems to have it all figured out, but you know what?
Yeah, he's just a
like,
shitty kid who takes advantage of his friend.
Yeah, I would just,
But first of all, I think I don't remember if we discussed this previously on air. They would never make that movie because that movie would just be the friend character in an insane asylum, because we know now that Ferris Bueller is just a figment of his imagination. What is that character's name? The buddy character,
Cameron.
Cameron
Are you serious?
is insane, and
I've not heard this fan theory.
It makes sense because
watch the movie through that lens. He's schizophrenic.
Yeah.
Ferris Bueller is but a made-up version of his own personality that he gets to live vicariously.
So it's like kind of like a Tyler Durden.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like a Sixth Sense situation. Not really that. That's interesting. I do like watching movies through lenses of crazy conspiracy theory, or fan theories of maybe this.
I like that one.
The homosexual overtones of Top Gun.
That's a good one. That's pretty overt.
That's
Playing with the boys.
I mean, the volleyball scene, the part in the locker
fives.
room where they're like inches from each other. It's.
Yeah.
I wonder. They are. I see them, and I saw them when I saw it as a kid. I felt like they were. The love story was between Iceman and Maverick. That's got to be intentional, right?
No, I don't think. Honestly, I don't think they were aware of what they were doing when they made that movie.
I can't. It's so hard. It's
I
like
think it was so. I mean, and again, I think it was so masculine that they didn't realize that they were actually, sending off some signals there.
There's a movie, I don't know the movie, with Quentin Tarantino playing like a cameo role where he does his monologue of like theories, and he talks about Top Gun, where like there's that volleyball scene, and then the next scene you see what's her name, and she's like wearing sunglasses and a jacket and looking like a man to try to get him back, and anyway. But saying that I don't know. That's like saying in Nightmare on Elm Street 2 when they were making it, everybody says they didn't realize that there were homosexual overtones, and it's like it's not even subtext; it's just text. You might not have seen that movie in a while, but
Which movie?
Nightmare on Elm Street 2.
I can't remember.
Basically, it's the lead character is trying to avoid pussy as hard as he can, and keeps going to his best friend, and like it's pretty clear.
I don't see why it has to be one or the other. It could be gender fluid.
It's not.
All I wanted to do is talk about Bill and Ted, guys.
Well, I do like that
Which makes you wonder if Bill and Ted are actually are attracted to each other.
Because of the overt.
But what about the medieval babes?
I think it's. I mean, they're trying so hard.
They're
They're trying so hard to avoid accepting the fact that they're attracted to each other that they travel through time to distract themselves.
If you want hard enough, you can see homosexual overtones in any male friendship, guys.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, maybe that will be the. I'll just let the listener decide
Imagine what I
happened
touched.
there. Maybe that will be the whole conflict of Bill and Ted
Doubtful.
Face the Music.
That would be an unfortunate title if it were the case.
I just like how they act like moronic stoners, but they never actually reference weed in those movies.
Yeah, it's good.
I just always thought of them as more like
SoCal.
Yeah, that's not what it's
stoner
about.
surfer morons.
They're just
I
dudes.
guess I never thought of them as stoners. I just thought of them as like, Southern California surfer dudes.
Yeah.
There is an unfortunate homosexual slur in Bogus Journey. I don't know if you remember.
I
that
don't.
moment.
I haven't seen
There's
that one very many
part
times.
where the evil robots throw the real Bill and Ted and murder them, throw them off a cliff.
And they hug.
They call them a name. And,
Isn't there a scene? Maybe it's not that movie, or maybe it's the first one or something where they hug and then they push each other away and use the F word.
Oh yeah. It's the same F word in the second. Dang it!
That's unfortunate.
They say the.
It was very casual back then to drop that into movies.
Right. Ugh. William Sadler was Death, and he's gonna be back in this movie apparently.
The bad guy in Die Hard 2.
And to connect to, he was naked in Die Hard.
He
too.
was.
You saw his
Speaking
buns.
of homosexuality, little buns for the ladies and
solid
men.
bun action. Mm-hmm. And then just I don't know if this character will be back, but just to bring it back to Transformers, so we can move on in life. Let's not forget Frank Welker as Station, the Devil, and the evil Easter Bunny in Bogus Journey.
No kidding.
Holy shit.
We talked about it before, but we're talking about it again.
Cool.
So, last episode recap. We saw some epic fight sequences. We saw Wreck-Gar versus Springer, knockdown, drag out in robot and car mode, with Springer basically losing the duel, but being saved at the last minute by none other than Autopod Decepticast favorite character, Daniel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And just as there is
I like Daniel now.
He's your man. Just as there is a slight pause in the action, the magnificence that is the Quintesson ship, piloted by none other than Cup and Hot Rod, arrives on the scene.
Well, they're not going to let the Dinobots pilot it.
No. They let them run a munitions factory.
It's true. They were running that factory.
So, right here at the top of the minute, the Quintesson ship, no lubrication, penetrates the virgin flesh that is the Junkion planet.
It actually...
Would you really call the Junkion surface virgin? I mean,
it looks pretty used.
It's got a lot of garbage.
I will
on
say
it.
this...
I think you called it a trash planet last week.
Well, it is, literally.
Yeah, so...
Just because it's unpenetrated doesn't mean it can't be a little dusty.
I don't think it's all too unfamiliar with what's going on here. Let's just say.
Since I will say that, like, the way it just plows into that in a sexual connotation, it made me think of the way bedbugs reproduce. Because female bedbugs don't have an orifice. They are penetrated by the male stabbing his penis through their abdomen and dumping semen into their cavity.
I am not surprised that you know this.
Yeah,
I know a lot about a lot. Or I know a little about a lot.
I love the completely believable animation of the way the debris is tossed.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It looks awesome. Lots of Autobots and Junkions, they're all kind of staring in awe here. And then Wreck-Gar, rubbing his skull, no doubt from the injury he recently sustained, tells his men to, at least for the moment, I think this means to stand down. He says,
Steady as she goes, Bob. Snooty visitors get mud in the eye. By and by, fill 'em at 11.
Snooty.
I think he says Snoopy.
Well, Snoopy or Snooty, yeah, I guess. It doesn't make any sense, really. But
It doesn't, no.
I did make some notes about this because it's weird. Did you have notes about what he says?
I do.
Snooty
Okay, go
visitors
ahead.
Get mud in the eye.
Um,
Can you translate this for me?
To me, it seems like he's moved from dated pop culture references to a more general idiomatic phrases at this point. But the steady as she goes phrase, I mean, essentially that means, like, be careful, avoid sudden change. It has origins as a nautical phrase to helmsmen to keep on the current course.
See, I took it as he's, like, saying that about the ship landing. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah, like...
Okay, I took it to mean, like, everybody kind of hold back down for a second.
But be alert.
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
Well, in my mind, and ever since I was a kid, I've always thought of it as, like, him, like, backseat driving.
It could be both.
Well, and that's what I took with the film at 11 part. Like, we'll take action as soon as we have a news update kind of thing, right? Like
That's a good. That's an interesting. We're like thinking about this way more than Ron Friedman thought about this.
Maybe so. Steady as she goes is also an awesome song by the Raconteurs.
That's whenever I googled it. That's all I could find.
Oh, really?
Was just I had to eventually.
Steady as she goes.
I had to eventually do the minus sign Raconteurs to get any other information.
So mud in the eye is kind of a weird one because typically mud in the eye is considered a toast, but I couldn't find any really solid evidence of the origins of that phrase. Some people believe that it originated in the muddy trenches of World War I, but there's evidence to believe that it's a lot older and that it is a reference to farmers kind of toasting each other, I guess maybe farm communities together at the beginning of a season, perhaps toasting to a bountiful crop. But it is bandied about. It's been used in saloons at least as early as 1890. It's popular with fox hunting, horse racing crowds, and actually there may be some biblical connection.
This
to
one
the
was
phrase.
my favorite.
Oh yeah, go ahead, because I don't have that much about it.
Okay, so it's definitely not this, and there's an episode of the Bible. There's a verse of the Bible, John 9:1 to 9:41. Where it's where Jesus spits in the dirt and rubs it into mud and rubs the mud at Celadonius's eye, a blind man's eye, curing his sight. Now, a couple of things on this. You don't have to do that. You don't have to rub mud in the dude's face. You're Jesus. You can just put your hand over his eye, can't you? You're making some stupid...
But if he wants a metaphor, maybe he's...
Of course, because that's what... yes, of course the reason is because we wrote it this way. It did not happen. But, like, it's just like... It feels so shitty if Jesus was doing that. He's just being an asshole.
I'm sure there was some sort of symbolism there.
Of course, yeah. That's all they are is like anecdotes about like metaphors and whatever. But like, I just found that hilarious. That's where people think that maybe it comes from, but it's definitely not that.
So some might say that
you don't think it comes from that story.
No, because mud in your eyes a toast. I mean, it doesn't.
But
And
maybe,
also-
if Jesus put mud
the
in somebody's
story
eye and
is
made
that
him see, that's good luck. That's good. That's toast
cured
worthy.
the man. He did the man a favor.
It works back engineering it, but the fact it doesn't show up in print until the 1800s, I mean...
So some might say that the origins of the phrase are muddy.
Oh, fuck.
All right.
He actually mimed taking off the sunglasses, listeners.
Except I think you're supposed to put the sunglasses on.
Oh, well, whichever.
Fucked
It
it all
works.
up. Don't tell him that. So the phrase "by and by," I feel like Wreck-Gar at this point is talking the way Ryan wishes he talked. By and by just simply represents some vague, far-off time in the future. Film at 11. I don't believe that newscasters use this phrase anymore, but anyone who is of Gen X age or older will understand that in news bumps, viewers are often informed that there's some breaking news story in effect, and that there's going to be footage at the 11 o'clock broadcast. We live in the Central Time Zone, so we didn't ever have 11 o'clock broadcast. That's more of an East Coast, West Coast thing.
We had 10
But yeah,
o'clock.
we had a 10 o'clock time
Yeah,
zone, so they probably
Central-
said film at 10 if around these parts.
Yeah, it was Central and Mountain Time, which nobody gives a shit about. It was at 11 on the coast. Yeah, I looked that up too, and it's like apparently this started in the 70s when you had to actually shoot the film and get it developed and everything. But it was like the beginning of sensationalist journalism of like
Right.
it's a teaser.
Right. Stay.
Ooh,
Don't change the channel.
No, don't touch that.
No
dial.
flipping, as Gary Sander.
So what
I'm out.
So I just translated all this to saying, chill for a sec, bros. These maybe friends will know in the not too distant future.
Nice.
That's some Cockney rhyming Jamaican
Cockney rhyming
patois
slang.
type shit.
I forgot to say this up top because but how the fuck do they know where the Ultra Magnus and the rest of them are? How do Hot Rod and Cup know where to go?
Yeah, there's no real indicators of that, and not even in the script that I have.
No, my script either. And it's like the one thing, not the one thing, but
The only thing.
that can stop. It's the one, but it is a major thing in this movie that I literally can't come up with an excuse for. Like, it's not even hinted at. There's no theory I can come up with.
Unless we can assume these ships have radars, and we can assume these ships have, land mass, and we have to assume that Quintessa and Junk aren't that far from each other, seeing as how
Sure.
whenever that battle happened, one went one way, and then these guys continued the other way, and they said it's in this vicinity. So maybe it was just a guessing. That was the most reasonable place for them to be based on some funky science triangulation.
The only
Maybe-
super... Go ahead, go.
I was gonna say maybe that ship just needed to fuck the closest planet they could find.
Oh my god, it's been so long since I was in space. I gotta get my dick wet
Yeah.
in this junk. The only one,
right.
the only like half-ass thing I can come up with is maybe they had a tracking device on the shuttle that was obliterated. I mean, planes crash in the black, and this beacon can still be found sometimes.
Right.
I have a theory
Perhaps.
that none of that is correct, and
They just didn't
needed
think about it.
They just needed to marry these characters up with the other characters, and why not just fly?
It just seems like you got a throwaway line of like why that happened. Jesus Christ.
That is the dog.
There's a dog
sneezing.
with allergies in this. Oh my god. Lucy, all right?
She looks like I didn't realize Fluffy was in here too.
Yeah, he's
There's
just
a dog
chilling.
and a cat in here.
Yep.
These
These are our arc.
We are 6 seconds into the minute. Wreck-Gar's kind of in awe here. We've continued to see the ship thrusting into the quivering mass that is the rusted crust of Junkion.
It's not really a thrust. It's more just kind of
A drill.
A drill.
And then some support legs come out for some reason. And we mentioned
Stabilizers.
in the last episode that the bottom of the ship looks like the bottom of the Quintessons themselves, and I feel like these could represent maybe the tentacles. But yeah, legs come out for some reason, but I don't feel like those extra legs would do anything to really support
Stabilizers.
that anymore, though.
Yeah, it's true. They're pretty spindly.
And that's
so.
a very top-heavy ship situation
Once
here.
again, the ship just spun itself into a planet to land.
And luckily, it
Mirapoke-
spun itself with the door facing the crowd.
It's great.
So a hatch opens, falls to the ground, and who emerges?
Who could it be?
It's Hot Rod!
And Cup and the Dinobots.
And Wheelie too.
Never forget about Wheelie. Wreck-Gar approaches. Cup kind of lifts his gun, and Hot Rod, with his newfound wisdom, says, "Guns aren't exactly friendly." And then Cup, who believes that's a childishly unwise statement, says, "Neither are they, in case you haven't noticed. Hot Rod has even more sweet wisdom. He remembers the universal greeting." What was that again, gentlemen?
I think it was.
Ba weep grana weep ninibon.
Thank you.
Ba weep, grana weep, ninny bong.
Is that your Wreck-Gar or the shark or the Alicons?
Whatever.
I don't know what it is.
All right.
Anymore.
Ba weep grana weep ninibon.
Ba weep, grana weep, ninny bong.
Yep. That happened. So yeah, that's exactly how it went in the movie.
Hot Rod repeated the greeting, delivered the goodie into Wreck-Gar's hand. At this point, the entire entourage of Junkions erupt into applause and chant the universal greeting. We see a screen. We're panning across a wide array of Junkion types. They're all celebrating.
I do think it's interesting right before that where he does come down to the ship and hand him the Energon goodie. They start to play a slowed down kind of stylized version of Dare to Be Stupid, which I never noticed before listening in the headphones. One other thing I noticed is where'd they get the fucking Energon goodies?
Out of his crotch. What are you talking about?
They were out.
I bet you that it's the ship itself. I mean, it obviously has power running it. Perhaps they can plug into the ship, power up, like so many USB ports into the computer, get some energy.
I want to think that the at least Cup anyway, makes them inside. He's creating these little energon.
Well, I thought of that maybe they
turds,
regenerate like boogers or something.
Like boogers. It's like his crotch.
Or they
boogers.
stole them from the Quintessons. These were the ideas I came
Why
up
wouldn't
with.
you? I mean, you might as well.
Maybe
it was in a mini bar.
Maybe the Dinobots had some. Maybe Wheelie had some.
They don't give the Dinobots money.
Is it? I guess it is like money or a treat.
It's edible money. We covered that one. Yeah, we couldn't
Here's a
decide whether it
treat
was.
for you to eat.
Yeah.
Here's a treat for you to eat.
Oh, God.
I believe a friend of the show, Serge Bomba, put in a request that Wheelie hear the whole show.
Well, he has more than a few bad ideas.
Shots fired across the bow at Serge Bomba. Sean, come back at us, bro.
I'm playing around. He's funny. He engages a lot and wants us to do G.I. Joe the movie like we did this.
We'll see about that, buddy.
There was an interesting.
I would like to, but
exchange where you did Mike Seibert said, but that movie's terrible, and then that was the gif.
Yeah. The Burt gif. I loved it. I'll do G.I. Joe the movie if we can do it 10 minutes at a time.
Yeah, I'm not as emotionally connected to it.
I was more.
Caleb would be our
expert.
expert.
You'd have to host it.
That's
then,
the problem.
Caleb.
I don't want to do that.
He doesn't want to. I want to do as much or less than I'm doing on this podcast.
That is correct.
And can we meet up less often?
Yes.
So, Serge, I don't know, man.
I feel like we're gonna take a little vacation once this thing's over. That's your Autopod Decepticast gossip page update.
I actually was thinking about this the other day because I think about all the time whenever this ends. Because every time I pull up this movie, I see how far we are into it.
Yeah, we're at 65 minutes.
Yeah, and you fucking asshole.
20 to go.
And so I start thinking about what we're gonna do after it or whatever. And the way I kind of try to comfort myself is thinking of it as like making movies where you don't just make this, continue. Well, some people do, I guess, continue making the same movie, but it's like you go on to a new project after taking a little break or whatever, and maybe we do that, or maybe we don't do anything.
Yeah, those are definitely options.
Those are all the options.
We'll see each other again after this, right, guys?
I plan on it.
Who knows what the future will bring?
Oh, man. All right, that was a downer.
That was kind of depressing. All right, moving on.
It's kind of cryptic almost.
Might be a murder-suicide situation.
Yeah.
So where we left off 5 minutes ago was that Hot Rod gives Wreck-Gar some energy. They recite the universal greeting. We see all the different variations of Junkions. Which, by the way, the proportions on Junkions are very fluid. Like
they're
sometimes
wacky.
They're about in alignment with human beings, and sometimes they're kind of short and squatty. And then, just like the best part of Slumdog Millionaire, an improvisational yet very well choreographed dance party kicks off, complete with Ring Around the Rosie, cha-cha slides, safety dances, and all other manner of wedding day revelry. And with that, we're at the end of the minute. And Caleb, what do you see over here in the corner?
I see Nancy. I see Nancy there. I see Nancy there. I see Nancy there. I see Nancy there.
There are Junkions here in
Nancy.
this scene. This is
Sweet.
Before this, I never noticed that before.
Of course not. Yeah, I have a lot. Actually, I watched this scene a lot. I hate the Dinobots dancing. Slag is bouncing up and down like my dog when I go to feed
I want to
her.
see what they look like.
They're just going left and right.
No,
or
Slag
up and
starts
down.
bouncing. It's ridiculous.
Well, look at RC's move there. She's like doing some kind of
Yeah, she does like, and Wheelie does some breakdancing, but that's mostly in the next scene.
Yeah,
Perceptor's kind of just waving.
Oh
back
wow,
and forth.
Hot Rod and this is actually, it was interesting to me. This is one of the longer uncut scenes of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
There is this shot of the Ring Around the Rosie, all the Junkions dancing around, and then the circle with the Autobots and Wreck-Gar in the middle, is one of the longest uncut moments in the entire movie. It is almost a full 10 seconds.
And it's one of those scenes where, that's why I watch this. Look, he's right here. Hot Rod dips Wreck-Gar.
Yep, you're right.
That's really funny.
It was cool. Yeah, I liked that moment.
I almost want to watch each individual character.
That's what I
now.
did, because I was like, I thought this is a classic,
Wheelie is breakdancing.
a classic trick of animation where they're just looping this, but no,
they're not.
It's all different.
I have to give him more credit because, yeah, this is like the only person who doesn't see.
And then Perceptor does Staying Alive.
Yeah.
And if you notice Cup, he does the same thing the whole time, which is like
so it looks
the
like
shaking
Swoop
out a
Knight
blanket
also.
move.
He's the old white man of this movie.
Not old, but a little too old to be in the club.
Daniel, I mean, they spent a lot more time on this. I'm assuming
Daniel's
that
breakdancing.
the circle is probably the same animation
Yep.
sequence. They're going around a circle, doing a kick one way, then it. That's it. Wow.
It's very like
That's incredible. I
yeah.
really thought that they were using some lazy animation tricks. Turns
dips-
out they were not.
The dip's cool. I
I loved it. I loved that
That's
part.
a really cool little hidden thing. I don't know if you'd ever notice that.
Yeah, that's yeah, and it was just because I was going to try to get some gotcha journalism of like, they just went lazy with it. But then I was so pleasantly surprised. I watched that for like 10 minutes.
Nice. That brings us to the end of the minute, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Quick discussion around the universal greeting. The TF Wiki says that according to Marvel Comics, the universal greeting is understood by most creatures in the galaxy. It is roughly translated to, hello, we mean you no harm, or we come in peace.
Nice. When you said hello, I immediately went, you fool, I love you, in my head.
Not, is it me you're looking for?
Right.
Oh, that's a good one, too. Lots of musical
Or,
references.
hello, how are you?
What's that one?
Electric Light Orchestra.
Oh, not
Hello?
recognizable.
How are you?
As a kid, I was so charmed by the idea of the universal greeting. That's a pretty...
Oh, it
that's
captured
felt
my
like
imagination hugely.
That felt like a unique thing about this movie that you don't really see in other movies. You've got I think Douglas Adams and the Babelfish already existed, which not really the same thing, but
it's not really the same like with
idea
Star
of
Trek,
just
the
being
universal translator. But yeah, this is different, where it's like we've all agreed that this is I come in peace or whatever.
This is also a significant minute because the protagonists they finally reunite.
Yeah,
After-
it's been a while.
Yeah, after leaving Earth
Which is like, it's a
under
classic.
duress.
It's not done very well, but it's the classic like hero's journey wheel.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely the universal greeting. I mentioned this on a previous episode. My comic strip that I did, Herschel. It was a crossover with you, Aaron, where you made a knockoff of my Garfield knockoff, which is Hermie.
Yeah. Ugh.
And then I did a crossover.
Copy of a copy of a copy. You
Yeah.
know that's the most garbage thing.
Third generation, baby. And then I did a comic strip where it was, I don't even remember it was just an introduction of a crossover where Hermie knocks on the door, and then they do the universal greeting at each other, and then I did the star thing in comics where you do a dialogue box that translates it, so it was memorable.
A la Marvel Comics.
Yep.
Remember, issue 72.
Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man.
Where Starscream electrocuted every member of the Transformers, killing almost all of them. Do you guys remember that?
I don't.
The underbase.
I don't remember
series
that.
in the Marvel comics. Everybody was seeking out this mystical thing called the Underbase. I can't remember where it came from, but Starscream got to it, got all kinds of superpowers, killed like everybody.
Oh, is that the one where he becomes enormous?
He became enormous and very...
I remember that
suckety.
cover, which was a really cool cover. But yeah, it's been a while since I read most of those.
So these guys are friends now. But it seems like as a kid, even though I was enchanted by the universal greeting, as an adult, I'm like, that's all you need?
Yeah, I think it's a shortcut, maybe. I don't know. It's a weirdly complex thing because initially it gets them captured anyway, and then here it's just a way to like get us to Cybertron.
Right. Well, I guess it's time to...
Deviations.
Why are you sorry?
The look of panic.
Well, I was paying attention, but
no
I
reason to be
couldn't.
sorry.
I couldn't think it was the iconic moment or scripting.
I actually did
I feel like
that
we've
in my
already
head
covered.
too.
I feel like we've already covered the iconic moment in a way. So the listener, longtime listeners might realize, but new listeners may not. So I'll clear it up for you. Aaron speaking, and I typically go first because the script that I read off of is a later generation, maybe 1 degree away from what we see on screen. And Ryan's version of the script, though, is a very early, maybe
like-
1 degree
I think
away
it's
from
more-
what was originally written.
Yeah, maybe second draft.
And his is crazy. Mine's a little closer in, but it has its moments of weirdness. So I'm going to go first, and then we'll get to the crazy town.
Is it Crazy Town this week?
I'm trying to remember.
Before we build it up,
It's not that.
crazy.
It's not that different, but there's some fun. There's some fun, weird shit in there.
Cool.
All right, well, hopefully I don't steal your thunder. So I have a lot of very subtle differences. The Quintesson ship in my version of the script is more, it's called a, quote, space cruiser as
Yes.
opposed to the monstrosity that we see. There was really no Wreck-Gar Springer fight. Hot Rod and Cup just show up right before that fight would have gone down. The Junkions make hostile signs toward the ship as it flies by. Cup makes another senile reference from his past. He talks about the Crocadillos of Strontero. I've not seen
I have
such a
that
sight.
too.
Wow, I can't believe it made it that far. Grimlock fantasizes that these people will make him king, as the Sharkticons did, which that puts a whole new level of understanding on what, because we debated that.
I never realized that they actually made him
I
king.
think that's in his mind.
Right? Yeah. But he said, he does
Me,
take
Grimlock,
control
be king,
over
but-
the.
Yeah,
over
I
the
think in his
Sharkticons
mind now
in
he
that way.
rules the Sharkticons.
So
I guess he kind of does.
Kinda. Yeah.
they listen to him.
Yeah.
Cup says, "Don't hold your breath, Your Majesty."
Oh.
The Junkions chase the ship until it lands, delivering the same line that we heard him deliver previously. Instead, he says, "Film at 5" instead of "Film at 11." So when the ship lands, hundreds of Junkions, weapons drawn, are aimed at the ship. Hot Rod steps out with a big smile on his face and an armful of energon to give to the Junkions. Wreck-Gar approaches Hot Rod with a blowtorch cutting tool that he has somehow procured.
Yes.
And Hot Rod delivers the greeting, and Wreck-Gar puts it away all is well.
What about his ping pong ball eyes? Is Wreck-Gar
Does
like,
that make another appearance?
That doesn't happen in this version.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's last episode, baby.
Okay, well, mine is pretty similar to that with some, again, subtle differences. There's some fun, weird differences in here. Basically, there's a lot that gets cut of just like the ship landing and all that shit. But in this one, Grimlock is the opposite, where he says, me Grimlock, no like odds. And then Cup says, we gotta go in fighting. And then Wheelie says,
fight not right, make friends get tight. That smart head, no way dead. I think I did it pretty good there.
that was pretty good for first, like, I just sprung it on you, yeah.
Well, especially considering he didn't have a on-screen reference, he could have done anything.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's true.
And then Hot Rod, this is before they even land, Hot Rod and Cup are debating on how to address it, and Hot Rod says with a small smile, sometimes you don't know who your friends are until you ask. Which is a great line. And then lands in Wreck-Gar's line here whenever the ship is landing is, glitz blitz ahead, steady as she goes, Bob. Snoopy visitors, so I guess you're right, Snoopy. Snoopy visitors getting mud in the eye by and by. Skull, salute, and high five. Gives the thumbs up sign. And Skull, I looked this up, is a
Cheers in Scandinavia.
Yeah, it's a Scandinavian toast.
Yes.
And so
How'd you know that?
I just happen to know it. The same reason Ryan knows
knows
about
how bedbugs fuck.
bedbugs. bedbugs fuck. I if you really want to know, I have a former professor that now lives in Scandinavia, and I've dialogued with him before on Facebook Messenger, and he's cheers.
Skull.
Yes.
All right.
There you go.
Yep. So like stuck with but in a weird way, stuck with the toast thing.
Right.
Yes.
So they went with the mud in the eye instead. I don't know. Anyway, and then as they land and they get out of the ship, RC says, "Hot Rod looks so different." Yeah, it's getting shoehorned.
It's like
in here.
Hot Rod's been working out. And she
Yeah, and then they do the universal greeting, which in this one is shorter. It just says, what was it? Gra, weep, ninny bong is what it is in this script. And then everybody starts chanting it and everything, and that's basically we're gonna end this minute where it's with Grimlock saying, "Me Grimlock like welcome, me Grimlock happy," which is great. It's just great.
It is a great minute. For once it's like a positive, like
It is a very nice minute.
Things are finally coming around for the Autobots.
And then we're gonna switch that up pretty soon.
I don't know. This feels like a conversation maybe better saved for the credit sequences, but I'll tee it up.
Okay.
In that, what we see on screen is a pretty weak sort of hero's journey evolution to me. Like, I never as a kid understood, like, I feel like most people who come out on the end of something and they're changed and better and have better leadership qualities or whatever, they go through a lot more. Hot Rod, basically, they landed on Quintessa, come out of it, and now all of a sudden he's a leader. I mean, I guess to be fair, he has to fight Galvatron and all that kind of stuff, but
I see what you're saying, and I don't disagree. I feel like his hero's journey is pretty weak, but I do feel like, at least in the movie we see on screen, they have little baby steps that they're getting to.
which I never picked up on before.
Of course not.
This
No, me
exercise, but
but in my script, especially in the next 1 minute or two, it's just a smash cut into making him have leadership qualities he does not seem to possess.
awesome.
But in the movie that we see, I feel like they could have hit the beats a little harder. But yeah, it is like, why is this guy the leader now?
well, like in this episode, the whole the fact that he takes the lead, tells Cup to stand down. Let's do this universal.
Yeah, he's
greeting.
growing, which is he flipped it from the prior where on Quintessa, where his first reaction was a gun.
Right.
And Cup was like, no, don't.
So I guess they are, but it's so subtle.
It's very subtle.
that it's tough to get that he's growing.
He literally, though, later in the movie, literally grows.
It's true.
That's
Spoiler
not so
alert!
subtle.
Jesus Christ.
I guess that's true. I can't wait to talk about that scene. I got a lot to say.
I mean,
about
they
that.
can't do too much before it gets to that because they really need to make that Matrix make a difference.
But if you had never watched this movie before, I get. And I have the benefit of not having the experience because I saw the season 3 before I saw this movie. But you were probably thinking still, despite all of these Hot Rod growth moments, that Ultra Magnus is going to get his second shot with Galvatron and kick his ass.
Yeah, he definitely should. He or Springer are demonstrably better for leadership.
Hey, where's Springer?
Yeah, he's not in this scene with the dancing scene. He's like, fuck you.
Springer doesn't
Springer's
fucking
not
dance.
in
Springer doesn't fucking dance, man.
Neither-
But also neither does
He's off getting
Sludge.
Neither is Blur.
He picked out
Or Snarl.
He picked out a Nancy out of the crowd, or maybe what's another one of the other names?
Trash dump.
Junkyard, I think is
Maybe
one.
him and Junkyard.
Yeah.
I mean, anything's possible.
Anything is possible, and everything is.
When you're on Junkie On.
I think, did I tell you guys my house is haunted?
What?
No.
Yeah. Every now and again, we get this sort of whiny, pathetic.
Ooh, I feel cold. You feel
It's
cold?
chilly
breeze.
in here.
Yeah.
It smells like retail.
We can.
I am the ghost of the iconic moment.
You know. Well done. You redeemed yourself.
So Caleb, with that triumphant display, what do you feel is the iconic moment of this?
The ring around the rosy, dude.
The dancing is nice.
That is a good thing to say since it's on screen.
Caleb is like Brick. He
Quickly.
just sees what he says. That's what he sees.
Yeah, it's in the basement of the Alamo. It's another
Good reference.
Another Big Adventure reference.
Ryan, what are you feeling?
I feel like it's whenever I want to say it's when Hot Rod dips Wreck-Gar, but I don't think I noticed that before watching this over and over. But I do like the part where Hot Rod does a universal greeting and is like, because it's a growth moment, which
I agree. I think that him taking command of the situation, looking for peace instead of a fight, definitely makes sense. Although I may never be able to unsee the dip in the Ring Around the Rosie.
I love it.
Moment
it's
here.
Cool. It's so good.
Yeah, who knew he knew how to dance?
I know they get. There's some
He's
like
leading.
everybody here has some moves. Like in the next minute
he can
wheelie,
fish. He can dance.
he can do it all, baby. Next time on the Autopod Decepticast.
Guys, we've got a busy one next time. We're going to see more dancing. We're going to see an interspecies makeout session.
Yeah.
We're going to learn where the Junkions learn to talk.
Yes.
And we'll all be party to a resurrection.
I don't know if they're technically interspecies.
Shut up, Ryan.
All right.
Listen to the show, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and TuneIn. Follow us on our social media, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, all of them at ApodDcast. And the old web presence at AutopodDecepticast.com. iTunes users, please rate and subscribe. 5 stars, please.
Yes, thank you. And if you want to leave a review, that'd be great too. We'd love another review. We really like reading them, and we'll give you a shout out on the air.
That's the APDC promise.
Ding!
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Cybertron!
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Autopod Decepticast After Dark, APDCAD. Yes, we're recording here at the top of the month of June. It's just getting into the summer, the sweaty summer months where you let your dicks out, let your pussies out, just let them flop in the breeze. You don't have any regard for local laws. Well, I'm not here to talk about that. We have a very special episode when we have a guest that we're going to talk to right here. And why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Well, thank you. Hi, my name is Steve Cybertron, and I do my own podcast, which is called Steve Cybertron. And I say, let's roll up our sleeves and see what Steve's got to say about Cybertron. That is absolutely fascinating, and I will say, yes, I want to plug your podcast. It is fantastic. Everybody go and listen to Steve Cybertron, which is available on... Well, it's not available anywhere yet, but I've been looking into it. Oh, that is fantastic. I cannot wait until... I mean, I know that it seems like I have heard it, but I was kind of just being a good host and pretending like it was good. I appreciate that, yeah. It's fine, because that's mostly like, I mean, I've kind of been, I haven't even recorded anything, but I did talk at length to a woman on a bus about it, and then I pitched her to my mother, and she was like, Steve, you're just the sweetest boy, now come and get some come and get some of the pot pie that I made for you. And I'm like, Mom, you're the best mom that's ever been. That's why I got you that coffee mug for Mother's Day. This is #1 mom. And that's fantastic. She sounds like a sexy, robust woman. Yeah, I guess maybe we need to, maybe you can bring some of Mama's panties in here next time. Well, I don't know if I want to do that. I was thought maybe we could talk about the Transformers. No. I want to talk about Mama's bloomers. I want to talk about them. I'm gonna smell them and wear them on my head. It's like a hat. Hey, Steve, where you going? Where you going, man? Come on, baby. Come on, don't be like that. Come on, Steve.
Blow cells, where we sell